May 14, 2024. Lone Star Oil's drilling rig number 47 is operating at its usual pace. Jack Thompson watches as another section of pipe is lifted from the depths of the Texas earth. 52 years old, 30 years in the oil industry, he has seen a lot. But what is rising today from a depth of 800 feet makes his hands tremble. Metal objects glisten in the thick black oil. Jack washes them with pressurized water. Engraved wedding rings, a child's bracelet with the name Emily. These items of jewelry have been searched for 6 years. Before we begin the story, please write which city you are from. We are very interested in where you are watching our video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your rating. April 2018. Midland, Texas. The house on Maple Street looks like something out of a magazine about country living. A white fence, a well-kept lawn, children's bicycles in the yard. A typical American dream in a town with a population of 12,000. David Harrison stands at the kitchen window, holding a cup of coffee. 34 years old, dark hair, a stern jawline. He is a sales manager for agricultural equipment at the family business. He is a reliable, calm, principled man. "Dad, you're going to be late." 8-year-old Emily tugs at his sleeve. She has long brown hair, freckles on her nose, and lively eyes. She is ready for school, her backpack on her shoulders. Sarah Harrison adjusts 5-year-old Ethan's scarf. 31 years old, with light hair and the caring hands of a teacher. She has been working at the local school for 7 years. Her colleagues know her as a patient teacher. "Mom, can I go to Grandma's after school?" Ethan asks. He has short blonde hair and a shy smile. "Not today, sweetie. Dad promised to take you bike riding." It's a normal morning for a normal family. No one knows that in a few hours, their lives will change forever. April 12th, 2018. Thursday. The morning begins as usual. David leaves for work at 7:30. Sarah takes the children to school. Their neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, waves to them over the fence. At the office, David discusses his weekend plans with his colleagues. He talks to clients on the phone. Nothing unusual. His secretary, Linda, notices his good mood. Mr. Harrison was talking about a family trip to the lake, she later tells investigators. At school, Sarah is teaching math to a second-grade class. Principal Robert King stops by during lunch. They discuss the upcoming school holiday. Sarah was her usual self, smiling and energetic, he tells the police. At 3:30, David picks up the children from school. A surveillance camera captures a blue Ford Explorer near the entrance. Emily and Ethan wave to their teacher through the window. These are the last images of the Harrison family alive and unharmed. At home, they spend a normal evening. Neighbor Robert King sees them in the yard around 6. The children are playing ball, David is washing the car, and Sarah is watering the flowers by the porch. "They looked happy," he will say later, as always. At 7:30, a neighbor notices the Ford Explorer leaving the driveway. The car heads toward the city limits. A camera on the main road captures it at 7:32. Its destination, the Texas desert. No one ever saw them alive again. April 13th. Friday, 8 in the morning. The phone at the Harrisons' house is not answering. The school principal calls Sarah. The children have not come to class. This is not like them. 9:15. David is expected at the office for an important meeting. He's not there. His secretary tries to call him. His cell phone is off. 10:30. Sarah's friend, Jennifer Martinez, arrives at the house. No one is there. The car is gone too. But children's toys are scattered in the yard. The door is locked. Something is wrong. At 11:45, Jennifer calls the Midland County Police Department. The dispatcher takes a report of missing persons. 4 people. An entire family. The case is assigned to Detective Maria Marquez. Maria Carmen Marquez, 42 years old, 15 years on the force. Short black hair, expressive eyes, a strict suit. She specializes in missing persons cases. Professional, persistent. She doesn't tolerate half-finished work. She inspects the Harrisons' house at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. No signs of a struggle, no signs of a break-in. Personal belongings are in place. Wallets, documents, family phones are on the kitchen table. Strange. People rarely leave with their documents and money. There is dinner in the refrigerator. A pot of uncooked pasta is on the stove. The TV is on in the children's room. It looks like the people were about to return at any moment. But 18 hours have already passed. Marquez interviews the neighbors. Robert King, 60 years old, retired, lives across the street. He talks about yesterday evening. He saw them in the yard around 6. Then the car drove away. He thought they had gone shopping. What time exactly? Around 7:30, maybe a little later. Marquez writes down the testimony. He checks the surveillance cameras on the main roads. The Ford Explorer did indeed leave the city at 7:30 p.m. It headed toward Highway 158, which leads to the desert. Why there? What was the family looking for? On the second day of the search, they find the car. It's abandoned on a farm 30 miles from Midland. The Ford Explorer is parked next to a ruined barn. The doors are open, the keys are inside. Detective Marquez examines the interior. There is a child's jacket with stains on the back seat. Forensic experts take samples. Later, tests will show that it is cherry juice, not blood. Tire tracks lead from the road to the barn. Then they disappear on the rocky ground. It's as if the car flew in from the sky. Where's the family? What happened in this desolate place? A search and rescue operation is underway across an area of 500 square miles. Midland County Police, the State Department of Public Safety, volunteers, search dogs. Helicopters patrol the sky. The Texas desert does not forgive mistakes. During the day, the temperature reaches 40 degrees Celsius, and at night it drops to 0. Without water, a person can survive for a maximum of 3 days. But a week passes. No traces. Marquez studies the identities of the missing. David is a model family man who has worked for the family business for 10 years. He has no debts, no conflicts with colleagues. Sarah is a beloved teacher and parent committee activist. The children adore their parents. Neighbors describe the family as exemplary. Why did they disappear? Who could have harmed them? The first theory is family problems. Perhaps the couple had conflicts that no one knew about. Marquez carefully examines their bank accounts. No large expenditures, no suspicious transfers. She interviews friends and colleagues. Everyone agrees that they were the perfect family. The second theory is an accident. Maybe they got lost in the desert. But why did they leave their car? Why didn't they take water and food? Search parties comb every ravine and crevice. The result is 0. The third theory is the most terrifying: kidnapping. But who would want a modest family from a provincial town? They have no enemies, no money for ransom, no ties to crime. A month passes. The media loses interest. Volunteers return to their daily lives. Only Detective Marquez and the relatives of the missing remain. David's parents are Thomas and Margaret Harrison. They are an elderly couple who have been married for 40 years. Thomas founded a family business in the 60s. Margaret spent her whole life running the household and raising children. They cannot understand how their son could have disappeared. Sarah's parents are James and Linda Foster. James worked as an engineer and is now retired. Linda is a nurse at a local hospital. They adore their grandchildren and cannot believe what has happened. 4 people are united in their grief. They set up a search fund. They print flyers. They organize rallies. The reward for information reaches $100,000. But weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. June 2018. The first false lead. A tourist finds children's shoes in a canyon 15 miles from the abandoned car. The DNA does not match. The shoes belong to another child who went missing several years ago. Hopes are dashed. August 2018. Truck driver Bill Stevens reports seeing the family at a gas station in New Mexico. Hundreds of hours of surveillance footage are reviewed. It turns out to be other people. Another false alarm. December 2018. An anonymous call comes in. The caller ID is blocked. A male voice says that the family has been spotted in Mexico. Investigators work with federal agents. They check every lead. The trail goes cold. The year 2019 passes in fruitless searches. The case is classified as cold. Detective Marquez continues to work, but there are no new leads. Once a month, she reviews the case files, looking for overlooked details. What do investigators know at the end of the first year? The family left the house voluntarily. There are no signs of coercion. The car was abandoned intentionally. The keys were inside. The doors were open. There are no criminal elements in the area capable of such an act. The family had no financial problems. No love triangles or conflicts have been identified. But people don't just disappear into thin air. Something happened on that April night. 2020. The coronavirus pandemic paralyzes the world. The search is suspended. People are locked in their homes. Everyone except the Harrison family and Detective Marquez forgets about them. The year 2021 brings new technologies. Analysis of mobile phone tower metadata. High-resolution satellite images. DNA analysis of samples from the car using new methods. Nothing significant is found, but a number of theories are ruled out. It becomes clear that the family did not leave the Midland area after abandoning the car. This narrows the search area, but not by much. 2022. Detective Marquez gets a promotion but refuses to hand over the case to a colleague. The Harrisons have become part of her life. She knows every detail of their lives. She remembers each child's birthday. It's no longer a job. It's a duty. 2023. Marquez focuses on people the family might have encountered on their last day. She compiles a list of everyone who had dealings with David at work. She studies Sarah's colleagues. She checks neighbors within a 10-mile radius. 3 candidates catch her attention. Dan Crawford, 45 years old. Local businessman, owner of a small transportation company. He transports cargo for farmers and oil companies. He had a business relationship with David. His company bought agricultural equipment on credit. His alibi for the evening of April 12th is vague. He claims he was home alone. Marcus Bell, 38 years old. Sarah's former colleague, fired for inappropriate behavior with children. Nothing criminal, but parents complained about his excessive attention to female students. After the family's disappearance, he behaved strangely, avoided meeting with the police, and moved to another city. Ray Jenkins, 52 years old. Neighbor living a mile away from the Harrisons. A lonely, withdrawn man. He has repeatedly complained about the noise from the children. He has a criminal record for assault dating back 20 years. On the day of the disappearance, he was seen driving towards an abandoned farm. Detective Marquez is conducting follow-up interviews. Crawford is nervous and evasive. Bell categorically denies any contact with the family since his dismissal. Jenkins reacts aggressively to questions and demands a lawyer. But there are no clues, only suspicions. March 2024, 5 years and 11 months since the disappearance. The case is officially considered an unsolved murder. The Harrison family is declared dead. Relatives insist on a symbolic burial. But Detective Marquez does not give up. She knows that somewhere in Texas, the bodies of 4 innocent people lie buried. And someone knows exactly where. May 14th, 2024. Drilling rig number 47. Jack Thompson holds jewelry in his hands, brought up from the depths of the earth. He immediately calls his supervisor. An hour later, a team of forensic experts is working at the site. The find is sent to a Texas state laboratory. Experts confirm that the wedding rings belong to David and Sarah Harrison. The engravings match the descriptions provided by relatives. The name Emily is engraved on a child's bracelet. DNA traces on the jewelry match samples taken from the house in 2018. Detective Marquez receives a call at 4 in the morning on May 15th. At first, he doesn't believe it. Then he goes to the drilling site and sees the evidence with his own eyes. After 6 years of searching, this is the first real lead. Technical analysis shows that the jewelry had been in the oil well for about 6 years. It was found at a depth of 800 feet. The well was drilled in 2015 and has been in continuous operation since then. Someone threw the jewelry there immediately after the murder. But why there? And where are the bodies? Marquez studies the history of the well. It belongs to Lone Star Oil. Drilling began in February 2015. It is operated around the clock. It is serviced by several contractors. One of them is Dan Crawford's transportation company. Coincidence? Or a long-awaited lead? Marquez obtains a court order for a large-scale search of the area around the well. A team of experts arrives on May 19th. They use ground-penetrating radar to search for cavities underground. Industrial-grade metal detectors. Search dogs trained to find long-buried remains. The Texas sun is relentless. The temperature reaches 42 degrees Celsius. Work can only be done early in the morning and late at night. But the team does not give up. They have waited too long for this moment. May 22nd. A breakthrough. 400 yards from the well, the ground-penetrating radar shows an anomaly. It is rectangular in shape, approximately 2 by 3 meters in size. The depth is 6 feet. Excavation begins. They work by hand so as not to damage any possible evidence. After 4 hours, the shovels hit something hard. Plastic sheeting underneath it. Detective Marquez closes her eyes. After 6 years of searching, she has finally found the Harrison family. May 23rd. A forensic examination in Austin confirms that the remains belong to 4 people. A man, a woman, and 2 children. Their ages match those of the Harrison family. DNA analysis will take several days, but there is no doubt. The cause of death is gunshot wounds to the head. Time of death is April 2018. Traces of chemicals used in oil production were found on the bones. The circle is complete. May 27th. Detective Marquez analyzes all the data collected. The burial site is located on land owned by Dan Crawford's transportation company. The chemicals on the remains match the composition used by his company to service oil wells. In 2018, his company had an exclusive contract to service well number 47. All the threads lead to one person. On the morning of May 28th, Detective Marquez rings the doorbell at Dan Crawford's house. It is a small cottage on the outskirts of Midland. The yard is well kept, and there are 2 cars in the garage. It is an unremarkable house belonging to an ordinary middle-class American. Crawford opens the door. He is of average height, with short dark hair and a sullen expression. He is wearing work clothes. He was about to leave for a job site. Mr. Crawford, Detective Marquez, Midland County Police. Can we talk? He hesitates for a second. Then he nods and invites them in. The TV is on in the living room, showing the morning news. There is a cup of coffee and a local newspaper on the coffee table. What do you want to talk about, Detective? The Harrison family. We have some new information. Crawford sits down in an armchair and crosses his arms. His expression doesn't change, but Marquez notices that his fingers are trembling. I've already told you everything I know. David was my client. A good client. I'm sorry what happened to them. Marquez places photos of jewelry on the table. Have you seen these items before? Crawford looks at the photos. His face pales. No, I've never seen them before. That's strange. We found them in an oil well serviced by your company. A long pause. Crawford stands up and paces the room. Many people have access to the wells, not just my company. But your company was there in April 2018, on the night the family disappeared. Another pause. An even longer one. Mr. Crawford, yesterday we found the bodies, all 4 of them, on your property. Crawford freezes in the middle of the room. He turns to the detective. That's impossible. It's very possible. We have physical evidence. DNA, ballistics, chemical analysis. Everything points to you. Crawford sinks into a chair. He hides his face in his hands. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. And Detective Marquez realizes that after 6 years of searching, she has finally heard a confession. But who is Dan Crawford? What drove an ordinary businessman to murder an entire family? And most importantly, how did he think he could get away with such a heinous crime? Part 2 of 3. I didn't want to. It was an accident. Dan Crawford's words hang in the air. Detective Marquez turns on the tape recorder. After 6 years of searching, she finally hears a confession. But who is Daniel Ray Crawford? 45 years old, owner of a small transportation company. Married, 2 teenage children. Neighbors describe him as a quiet man. Never had any problems with the law. What turned an ordinary businessman into a murderer? Crawford tells his side of the story. April 12th, 2018. It's evening. He arrives at the Harrisons' house. He has serious financial problems. His company is on the verge of bankruptcy. David Harrison is one of his biggest debtors. $50,000. That's how much the Harrison family business owes him for equipment. According to the contract, payment was due a month ago. But there's no money. Crawford asks for a meeting. David agrees to go with him for a private conversation. The meeting place is an abandoned farm 30 miles from the city. No one will disturb them there. But why the whole family? Why the children? Crawford explains. Sarah didn't want to let her husband go alone. It's Friday evening, and the weekend is ahead. She suggests they all go together. The children see it as an adventure. 2 cars leave Midland at 7:30. The Harrisons' Ford Explorer is in front. Crawford's pickup is behind. The goal is a peaceful resolution to the financial issue. But things don't go as planned. A conversation begins at an abandoned farm. David explains that the money will be available, but not now. The company is going through difficult times. They need to wait another month. Crawford cannot wait. The bank is threatening to take away his house. Creditors are demanding immediate payment. His family will have nowhere to live. The conversation turns into an argument. The argument turns into a fight. Voices are raised. The children are frightened and crying. And then Crawford makes a fatal mistake. He pulls out a gun. He swears he only wanted to scare him, to make David find the money immediately. But David lunges at him. A fight breaks out. A shot rings out. David falls. Blood spreads across the dusty floor of the barn. Sarah screams. The children cry. Crawford realizes he has become a murderer. His life is over. His family is destroyed. Prison is inevitable. If there are any witnesses, Detective Marquez listens to the story without emotion. She has seen many criminals. She knows that the most terrible murders are committed by ordinary people in moments of desperation. But then comes the darkest part of the story. Crawford realizes that Sarah and the children saw everything. They will identify him. They will tell the police. He'll be sent to the electric chair. In Texas, murder is punishable by death. He makes a monstrous decision. He kills the remaining members of the family. 3 shots, a woman and 2 children. What goes through a person's mind at a moment like that? Detective Marquez doesn't ask that question. She's interested in facts, not psychology. 4 bodies in a barn. What to do next? Crawford has been working in the oil industry for 20 years. He knows that the acid in the wells dissolves organic material. If he dumps the bodies there, nothing will remain. But the bodies are too big. The well is narrow, so he makes another decision. He buries the bodies on his land, deep 6 feet underground. He pours chemical reagents into the hole to speed up decomposition. He throws the jewelry into well number 47. His company services it under contract. He has access at any time. The metal won't dissolve completely. But who's going to look for wedding rings at the bottom of an oil well? The plan seems perfect. The bodies are gone. The evidence is destroyed. He abandons the car near the farm. Let the police think the family got lost in the desert. But plans have a way of falling apart. Detective Marquez asks the key questions. Where's the gun? Crawford threw it away in the desert right after the murder. It's almost impossible to find. How did he transport the bodies? In his pickup truck, at night. The road to his property passes through deserted areas. There are no surveillance cameras. Who else knew about the debt? No one. Crawford destroyed all the documents after the murder. Officially, the Harrison family had no debts to his company. Well thought out. Cold-blooded, almost perfect. But he didn't count on one thing. Technology is advancing. What seemed hidden forever will sooner or later come to light. 6 years later, the jewelry is recovered from the well. A new investigation begins. The circle of suspects narrows, and Dan Crawford's name is at the center. Now he sits in front of Detective Marquez and tells the truth. Too late. Too many lives have been destroyed. But the detective knows there are lies in his words. An accident? A man doesn't kill 3 innocent people by accident. It was cold-blooded murder from the start. The motive? Money. $50,000. The price of 4 human lives. Crawford is arrested. He is officially charged with first-degree murder. 4 counts. Each one carries a life sentence. But that's not the end of the story. The Harrison family finally gets answers. Thomas and Margaret Harrison, David's parents. James and Linda Foster, Sarah's parents. They have lived in uncertainty for 6 years. Now they know the truth. Their children and grandchildren are dead, killed for money by a man they thought they knew. The local community is in shock. Dan Crawford lived among them. He took his children to the same school. He shopped at the same store. He attended the same church services. How could such a terrible secret be kept for so long? Psychologists say that some people are capable of complete dissociation. They separate the criminal part of their personality from their normal life. During the day, they are loving fathers and husbands. At night, they are murderers who sleep over the graves of their victims. But Detective Marquez isn't interested in psychology. Her job is facts and evidence. A team of forensic experts thoroughly examines Crawford's property. They find additional evidence. Traces of blood in the garage, a shovel with soil residue, canisters of chemical reagents. Everything points to a premeditated murder. Crawford prepared the burial site in advance. He bought chemicals to destroy the evidence. He planned his alibi. An accident? Detective Marquez doesn't believe a word he says. The case is handed over to the district attorney. Jessica Turner, 40 years old, 20 years in the district attorney's office. She specializes in murder. She has achieved convictions in 90% of her cases. She studies the investigation materials. The evidence is irrefutable. The DNA matches. Ballistics will confirm the murder weapon if they find the gun. Chemical analysis links Crawford to the burial site. But there's one problem. David's body shows signs of a struggle. Perhaps the first shot really was accidental. The defense will certainly insist on that. Second-degree murder instead of first-degree. 25 years instead of life. Or even manslaughter. 15 years. But what about the other 3 victims? Sarah, Emily, Ethan. Their murders were definitely premeditated. Cold-blooded, without any justification. Prosecutor Turner makes his decision. He will seek the maximum penalty. First-degree murder on all 4 counts. In Texas, that means one thing: the death penalty. Dan Crawford is in Midland County Jail, solitary confinement. He is under guard 24 hours a day. He is officially considered a dangerous criminal. His wife files for divorce. She takes the children and moves in with her parents in another state. She doesn't want their name associated with murder. Crawford's business is going bankrupt. Clients are terminating contracts. Employees are quitting. No one wants to work for the company of a murderer. The house is put up for sale. But who would buy the property where a man who killed 4 people lived? The price drops 3-fold. The bank seizes the property to pay off the debts. Overnight, Dan Crawford lost everything. His family, his business, his home, his freedom, and most importantly, his future. But the worst is yet to come. The trial, when 12 jurors will decide whether he lives or dies. The court appoints a defense attorney. Robert Miller, 55 years old, 30 years of legal practice. Specializes in criminal cases. A good lawyer, but no miracle worker. He meets with Crawford in prison. He studies the case. He understands that the chances are slim. The evidence is too convincing. There is a confession. The motive is clear. The only strategy is to seek a reduced sentence. Insist that the first murder was unintentional. The rest were the result of panic and desperation. But even that won't save him from life imprisonment. Meanwhile, the victims' families are preparing for the trial. Thomas Harrison, David's father, gives an interview to the local media. "We've been waiting for this day for 6 years. Finally, our son's killer will be punished. Justice will prevail." Linda Foster, Sarah's mother, is less public. She just wants it all to be over, so she can finally bury her children and grandchildren. Begin the healing process. But healing after such a tragedy is impossible. You can only learn to live with the pain. Detective Marquez completes his investigation. He compiles his final report. 200 pages of facts, evidence, witness statements. 6 years of work fit into one folder. She thinks about the Harrison family. David dreamed of expanding the family business. Sarah planned to get a master's degree in education. Emily wanted to be a veterinarian. Ethan loved dinosaurs. All those dreams are buried in Texas soil because of $50,000 and one man who couldn't cope with financial difficulties. But something is bothering Detective Marquez. Crawford's story sounds plausible, but there are details that don't add up. Why did he bring a gun to a business meeting? If he was planning a peaceful conversation, why the weapon? Why did he choose this particular abandoned farm? It's on his land. Convenient for hiding bodies. Too convenient to be a coincidence. Why did he have chemical reagents for destroying organic materials at his home? His company does not use such substances in its normal operations. Everything points to the murder being premeditated. Crawford lied about the accident. It was a deliberate murder from the start. But it will be difficult to prove. There is no direct evidence, only circumstantial evidence and logical conclusions. Prosecutor Turner is examining the same facts. She comes to the same conclusion. But in court, irrefutable evidence is needed. The jury must be 100% convinced. She makes a decision. She will insist on first-degree murder. But if the jury has doubts, she will settle for second-degree murder. The main thing is to get a conviction. The trial is set for October 2024. 5 months to prepare. The defense will use every day to find loopholes in the prosecution's case. Meanwhile, Dan Crawford sits in his cell and thinks about the past. About that April evening when his life took a different turn. About the 4 people he killed. Does he regret what he did? Or just that he got caught? Detective Marquez doesn't ask herself such questions. Her work is done. The killer has been found. Justice will soon prevail. But one mystery remains unsolved. Why did he do it? The truth turned out to be more terrifying than anything anyone could have imagined. Part 3 of Through October 2024. Midland County Courthouse. The courtroom is packed. Journalists, relatives of the victims, curious townspeople. Everyone is waiting for the trial of the century to begin. Judge Robert Hardy, 62 years old, 30 years on the bench. Gray hair, stern face, iron reputation. He handles the most difficult cases in the county. Dan Crawford enters the courtroom accompanied by guards. He is wearing an orange prison uniform, handcuffs, and has a blank stare. 6 months in prison have aged him 10 years. The jury takes their seats. 12 people will decide his fate. Farmers, teachers, mechanics, housewives. Ordinary people who must pass judgment on a murderer. Prosecutor Jessica Turner rises from her seat. 40 years old, 20 years in the district attorney's office. An impeccable record. She has never lost a murder case. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, she begins. Before you sits a man who cold-bloodedly murdered 4 innocent people. A man, a woman, and 2 children. Defense attorney Robert Miller watches the jury's reaction. 55 years old, an experienced lawyer. But he knows this case is almost hopeless. Turner presents the facts methodically and ruthlessly. The jewelry in the oil well. The bodies on Crawford's land. The chemicals in the garage. The defendant's confession. This was no accident, she says. This was premeditated murder, and I will prove it. The first day of the trial. The prosecutor calls the witnesses. Jack Thompson talks about the discovery in the well. Detective Marquez presents the results of the investigation. Experts confirm the conclusions of the forensic team. The jury listens attentively. The evidence is convincing. The chain of evidence is strong. There is almost no doubt. But the defense tries to create reasonable doubt. Attorney Miller rises for cross-examination. Mr. Thompson, are you sure the jewelry was in the well for exactly 6 years? The expert confirmed it. But theoretically, they could have been thrown in there later? Theoretically, yes, but it's unlikely. Miller creates doubt where there is none. Professional work, but useless. The facts are too obvious. Day 2. The most important witness is Dan Crawford himself. The prosecutor reads his confession. Every word is a nail in the coffin. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. But then the prosecutor delivers the decisive blow. She presents new evidence. Documents that Detective Marquez found at the last minute. Crawford's bank statements for March 2018. Purchase of a shovel at a hardware store. Purchase of chemical reagents. Purchase of a gun. All of this 3 weeks before the murder. What kind of accident is that, Turner asks, if you spent a whole month preparing for it? The courtroom falls silent. Crawford turns pale. The lawyer tries to object, but it's too late. The truth has finally come out. It was a planned murder from the very beginning. Day 3. The prosecutor reveals the real motive. $50,000 was just the tip of the iceberg. Crawford's company was not going bankrupt because of one debt. He had problems with the tax authorities. He owed $200,000 in back taxes. He was facing criminal charges. David Harrison knew about it. What's more, he threatened to report Crawford's violations to the IRS. He had documents proving the fraud. That's the real motive for the murder. Not money. Fear of exposure. Crawford killed the Harrison family to cover up his financial crimes. 4 lives for his own freedom. Turner presents correspondence between David and Crawford. Emails that were recovered from a hard drive. Dan, I can't keep quiet about what I know. People have a right to know the truth. David, please think about my family. Don't ruin my life. I'm sorry, but the law is the law. The last email is dated April 11th, 2018, the day before the murder. The jury looks at each other. The picture becomes clear. This was not a spontaneous crime. Crawford lured the family into a trap to kill the witnesses to his fraud. Day 4. The defense tries to save the defendant. Attorney Miller presents character references. Crawford is a model family man, never convicted, helped the local church. Defense witnesses talk about his good qualities. His former pastor praises his generosity. A neighbor recalls how he helped the elderly. But it doesn't work. The jury sees only a murderer who hid the truth for 6 years. Closing arguments. Prosecutor Turner sums up. Dan Crawford didn't just kill 4 people. He killed trust. He killed the safety of our community. He showed that he was willing to do anything for his own gain. David Harrison was an honest man. He wanted to obey the law. For that he was killed, along with his wife and children. Sarah Harrison taught our children. She shaped the future of our town. She was killed for standing by her honest husband. Emily and Ethan, 8 and 5 years old, they didn't even understand what was happening. They were killed simply because they witnessed it. This man does not deserve mercy. He should receive the maximum punishment under the law. Attorney Miller makes a final attempt. My client made a terrible mistake. He regrets what he did. He is prepared to spend the rest of his life in prison. But he is not a monster. He is an ordinary man who found himself in a desperate situation. He made the wrong decision. Don't let the desire for revenge cloud your judgment. Life imprisonment is punishment enough. The jury retires to deliberate. 4 hours of agonizing waiting. The victims' families pray. Crawford sits with a stony face. Finally, the jury returns. The foreman rises. The courtroom is silent. On the first count, the murder of David Harrison, we find him guilty. On the second count, the murder of Sarah Harrison, we find him guilty. On the third count, the murder of Emily Harrison, we find him guilty. On the fourth count, the murder of Ethan Harrison, we find him guilty. The verdict is unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Crawford lowers his head. His life is over. Judge Hardy hands down the sentence. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole on each count. The sentences will be served consecutively. In effect, this means Crawford will die in prison. There are sobs in the courtroom. The victims' relatives embrace each other. Justice has finally prevailed. But that doesn't bring back the victims. After the trial, the families hold a press conference. Thomas Harrison, David's father, struggles to contain his emotions. "We've waited 6 years for this day. Finally, the killer has been punished. But our pain is still there." Linda Foster, Sarah's mother, is more reserved. "We are not happy about the sentence. We are just relieved that it's over. Now we can try to live a normal life." Detective Marquez receives thanks from the governor of Texas. Her persistence and professionalism led to the case being solved. "Without Detective Marquez, this criminal would still be walking free," the governor says. "She set an example for all law enforcement officers." Marquez humbly accepts the award. She's not thinking about fame, but about the other unsolved cases in her file. "It's my job," she says. "I swore to serve the law and protect the innocent." The Harrison family deserved justice. Jack Thompson, the oil man whose discovery led to the case's resolution, declines his share of the award. He donates the money to a fund that helps families of missing persons. "I was just doing my job," he says. "The real heroes are the police and the investigators." Dan Crawford is sent to a maximum security prison, a solitary cell, minimal privileges, no visitors. He will spend the rest of his life there. His ex-wife and children have moved to another state. They changed their last name. They are trying to forget the nightmare that destroyed their lives. Crawford's house was demolished. A memorial park for the Harrison family was built in its place. 4 trees, 4 benches, a memorial plaque. Crawford's company was liquidated. Its assets were sold off to pay off debts. Employees found work elsewhere. Life in Midland is gradually returning to normal, but the city has changed. People have become more cautious, more suspicious. Trust has been shattered. How could this have happened? How did an ordinary businessman turn into a murderer? How was it possible to live for 6 years next door to a man who killed 4 people? Psychologists offer various explanations: sociopathy, extreme selfishness, inability to empathize. But this is no consolation to the victims' relatives. In November 2024, the Harrison family funeral took place. The whole town came to say goodbye. 4 coffins, 4 lives cut short by the greed of one man. The pastor speaks of forgiveness and healing. But some wounds never heal completely. Detective Marquez stands aside. She doesn't cry. She doesn't let her emotions get the better of her. She has other cases, other families waiting for answers. But at home, in the silence of her apartment, she thinks about David and Sarah, about 8-year-old Emily with freckles on her nose, about 5-year-old Ethan, who loved dinosaurs. They deserved a better fate. They deserved a long and happy life. But one man decided otherwise. In December 2024, Dan Crawford files an appeal. His new lawyer argues that the investigation was biased, that the evidence was obtained illegally, that the sentence is too harsh. The appeals court rejects the appeal. The sentence stands. Crawford files a second appeal. To the state Supreme Court. The result is the same. Denied. The last resort is federal court. The lawyer argues that the defendant's constitutional rights were violated. But here too, there is no success. Justice has been served. Final and irrevocable. The year is 2025. Dan Crawford is serving his sentence at Huntsville Prison, the most secure prison in Texas. The state's most dangerous criminals are incarcerated here. He works in the prison library. He reads books. He writes letters that no one receives. His former family does not want to have anything to do with him. Does he feel remorse? Does he regret what he did? The guards say he never talks about the crime. He lives like a robot, without emotion. Perhaps he is simply incapable of remorse. Some people are born without a conscience. or maybe the pain is too great. The realization that he destroyed not only other people's lives, but his own. Life goes on in Midland. Children go to the school where Sarah once worked. Farmers buy equipment from the company where David worked. But the memory of the Harrison family lives on. There is a monument in the park. A memorial plaque hangs on the main street. A scholarship named after Sarah Harrison has been established at the school. Detective Marquez got a promotion. She is now the head of the homicide division. She leads a team of young investigators. She often tells them about the Harrison case, how important it is not to give up, how every clue can be the key to solving a case, how patience and persistence defeat even the most cunning criminals. Remember, she says, we're not working for statistics. We're working for the victims' families, for those who have lost loved ones and are waiting for answers. Jack Thompson continues to work on the oil rig. But now he is more careful about what he pulls out of the ground. The jewelry incident changed him. He has become a volunteer in search and rescue operations. He helps look for missing people. He considers it his duty to the memory of the Harrison family. If it hadn't been for that chance discovery, he says, the killer would have gone unpunished. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways. David and Sarah's parents set up a charitable foundation. It helps families of crime victims. It pays for lawyers, psychologists, and private investigators. We can't bring our children back, says Thomas Harrison, but we can help other families find justice. Linda Foster has retired. She can no longer work at the hospital. There is too much pain around her. She moved to California to live with her sister. I'm trying to start a new life, she says, but the memory of my grandchildren will never leave me. The Harrison family's story is a warning to everyone. It shows how greed and fear can turn an ordinary person into a monster. It shows how important it is to be honest, even when it hurts. David Harrison could have kept quiet about Crawford's violations. He could have turned a blind eye to the fraud. He could have stayed alive. But he chose honesty, and he paid for it with his life, along with his entire family. Was he right? Was his principle worth 4 lives? There is no easy answer to that question. Everyone must decide for themselves what is more important, safety or justice. But one thing is certain: evil must not go unpunished. Criminals must be held accountable for their actions. Dan Crawford got what he deserved. He will spend the rest of his life in prison thinking about what he has lost: his family, his freedom, the respect of others, all for money, which he ended up not getting. And the Harrison family found peace. Not the peace they wanted. But at least justice has been served. Their killer has been found. Their story has been told. Their memory has been immortalized. It's not a happy ending. There are no happy endings in stories like this. But it's a just ending. And sometimes justice is all we can hope for. Texas holds many secrets. Its soil holds the mysteries of the past and the future. But some secrets always come to light, like the Harrison family's jewelry, like the truth about Dan Crawford. Justice may be late, but it always comes. Now here's a question for you. If you were in David Harrison's shoes, would you report the law-breaking, knowing it could put your family in danger? Where's the line between being principled and being reckless? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your answer might help someone else make the right decision in a similar situation.